This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook, and I have the CEO of Whoop. That's right, Will Ahmed. He is an ultra entrepreneur. He has built this company to an unbelievable valuation with the biggest names in sports, great pro athletes, some of our heroes. Welcome to the Playbook, Will.
Dave, thanks for having me.
One of the biggest questions of entrepreneurs is how do I get a job in sports? But most of them want what I call one of the 32 jobs. They want to work for a team, a league, an organization, and they don't know it. They want to be stuck in a cycle of competitive business that doesn't pay very much because everybody wants those jobs. You and I have figured out how to have a career in sports, surround ourselves with the greatest celebrities, athletes, and entertainers. But there's one key distinction is not only do we get access to all the great things in sports, but we actually make money. And I think that's a critical component in business, especially the multi-billion dollar business of sports.
Yeah, look, I think you got to find your own path if you want to be within sports. In a lot of ways, I feel incredibly grateful for where Whoop is today because I feel like I've created my dream job. We get to build incredibly powerful technology. We get to design that technology. We get to create an experience that's actually improving people's health. And at the same time, one of the largest populations that wears Whoop is the best athletes in the world. So I've gotten to meet a lot of cool athletes and trainers and really understand what makes them tick too.
But beyond, the big-eyed side of celebrities, athletes, and entertainers, you and I both share the social impact in a great area, which is health. And I think wearables themselves have proven now over the years to be a key component to maintenance and growth of our personal health. But you take a kind of contrarian approach to how you find the best wearable and the best solutions for our health. What are some of the differences of the way that you look at this space and how you provide the best performance for the everyday person, not just the celebrity, athlete, or entertainer?
Yeah, look, our mission at Whoop is to unlock human performance. So we believe every individual has an inner potential that you can tap into if you can better understand their bodies. And we've developed a vertically integrated system across hardware and software and analytics and membership services and community that's designed to help you improve your health. I mean, I think the single biggest differentiation between Whoop and other wearables is that we truly change behavior and we improve health. And if you look at someone who's been on Whoop for a year, and this isn't just the best athletes in the world, this is your everyday consumer. If you look at someone who's been on Whoop for a year, they're getting more sleep. The sleep is higher quality. Their resting heart rates are declining. Their heart rate variabilities are increasing. And more often than not, they've made some kind of lifestyle changes that are positive, maybe drinking less alcohol or introducing some new type of diet. And I think we're able to drive that kind of behavior change because the product in itself is designed to live a step ahead of you. So much of building Whoop came from my own experience as a college athlete where I felt like I didn't know what I was doing to my body while I was training. So I was playing squash while I was at Harvard, and I felt like I was overtraining almost every season. And you overtrain in part because your mind betrays you. It tells you that you can keep going, you can keep going, you can keep going. When actually there's certain things going on within your body that make that less desirable. And you'll often find with really driven executives and entrepreneurs and other people where they're overdriving themselves in their professional lives, right? And they're just telling themselves keep going, keep going, keep going. And so I got very interested in recovery. And if there was an insight that I had 10 years ago that was probably contrarian or unpopular at the time, right? Because I think all great businesses are built on sort of like a contrarian idea that later ends up being true. And the version of that for Whoop was that we believed that sleep and recovery were going to be more important to performance than exercise. 10 years ago, everyone was talking about exercise. Can you do a two a day? Can you do a three a day? How fit can you be? I want more analysis on video. I want more analysis on sweat. I want more analysis on everything related to the performance or the exercise. And I realized I was overtraining in part because my other 20 hours of the day were crazy too, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing during that period. And so I became very interested in physiology. I read something like 500 medical papers, and I wrote a thesis around how to continuously understand the human body. And to tie it all back, that playbook was really about creating a 24/7 coach that could tell you what to do next. So I think if you think about Whoop today, that's where we're differentiated, is that we're able to tell you what to do next.
One of the things that I found as an entrepreneur, also being a college athlete myself, I know you're sitting there going, "Come on, what sport did you play?" But no, I actually was an average Division III football player, in case you were curious. But one
That's
one of the
good.
things about being an athlete, at least you get physically tired.
Yeah.
So there is an indicator that, hey, you got to get some rest, and you can get injuries, etc. But one of the things as an entrepreneur that I find in this balance that you've created, and why Whoop I think is so important to an entrepreneur, is that you may not always be physically tired. Because you may not be utilizing physical activity the way you should, which Whoop will help you with, to say, "Hey, dummy, you got to get some cardiovascular in." But what's so dangerous is the energy that's expended has a cellular effect on you. It mentally has an emotional effect, and that the sleep becomes really important. And a lot of entrepreneurs are sleep deprived, which then decreases their performance. And quantitatively, when we look for value in a product, if you're an entrepreneur, your goal is to be as productive, accessible, and gracious as possible, to have the highest peak attitude, because that attitude to me is what I invest in an entrepreneur like you. What is it about Whoop that would help an entrepreneur that may not be getting the physical activity, may not be getting the sleep, isn't considering themselves a high performance person, or even an average performance person? But I see Whoop as one of the most important things that I utilize as an entrepreneur to figure out the things that I'm not seeing, that a lot of other entrepreneurs don't see either.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that Whoop does is it tries to summarize your life in terms of strain and recovery. So, strain being the sort of intensity of any period of time, or it could be activity, it could be work, it could be exercise, and recovery being how prepared is your body for that strain, right? And what you ideally want is the more recovered your body is, the more strain you take on, and the less recovered your body is, the less strain you take on, which sounds super obvious, but if you don't measure strain and recovery, you can't really manage those things. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, at various points have been all strain, no recovery. And that makes you an extremely ineffective leader, first and foremost. And it can also really inhibit your decision making. And sleep plays a big role in all of this too, right? And to be able to really understand, are you getting enough sleep? Is it the right quality of sleep? That's probably the lowest hanging fruit for people listening to this. If you ask the average entrepreneur who doesn't measure his sleep or her sleep, how much sleep did you get last night, or in general? They'll be like, yeah, I went to bed at 11, woke up at 6. So I got 7 hours of sleep. It's like false. You spent 7 hours in bed, right? Now, within that 7 hours, you may have actually only gotten 6 hours and 20 minutes of quality sleep. And by the way, that would actually be a high efficiency. It could have been 5 hours of quality sleep. And let's just pretend it was 620. Within that 620, it was either light sleep, REM sleep, or slow wave sleep, right? And slow wave sleep and REM sleep are all the benefit. Like slow wave sleep is when you're getting 95% of your human growth hormone. So this idea that you're getting stronger in the gym or exercising, you're breaking muscles down then, right? You're actually getting stronger during slow wave sleep. So that's super important. REM, even more important. If you're an executive, a high performing, high functioning person, REM is when your brain is repairing itself. And so I'll look at data and I'll see someone who spent 7 hours in bed, 6 hours and 20 minutes of sleep. Within 6 hours and 20 minutes of sleep, maybe they only got an hour of REM and slow wave.
Wow.
Now, compare that to someone who got 5 hours of REM and slow wave within that 620. And the amazing thing is I'm focused on the quality right now. I'm not even talking about the amount of time you dedicate to sleep. I think entrepreneurs, executives, everyone, you're trying to maximize the amount of time that you have on this planet. And there's subtle things that you can change to actually become someone who's getting an hour of REM and slow wave sleep a night to 4 hours or 5 hours. and the degree to which that can improve the quality of your life and the degree to which that can make you a better functioning entrepreneur, executive, fill in the blank person, right? Is unbelievable. And so that's why I think it's very short sighted to not be measuring your sleep in particular, because it's about a third of your life and you can really optimize it.
Yeah, no, and I actually even have a sleep coach on top of your product that I utilize because that's how much I feel sleep's important. You have some interesting philosophies that I'm synergistic to. One is, Lou Holtz had this great saying: "It's not what I say, it's what they hear." And you have an interesting perspective of the difference of hearing and listening. For me, listening, there's three types of listeners. There's the interrupter that just interrupts you. There's the waiter, the guy that's not really listening to you. He's just waiting to interrupt you. And then there's the person that processes and listens and learns from what I say. How do you differentiate between hearing and listening?
Well, when I was earlier in the journey of building Whoop, hearing and listening to me were the same thing, and I would say I did very little of both. And there was a reason for this because I'm 22 years old, 23 years old, 24 years old, starting this company. I've raised millions of dollars by at that point. I'm trying to build a team, and everyone's still telling me I'm going to fail. And so you have to build up this sort of stubbornness to get out of bed in the morning, because if you just listen to what everyone was telling you, again, this was my point of view as a young 20-year-old building a company. If you listen to what everyone's telling you, it's so discouraging that it's hard to, it feels like it's hard to move forwards. And I think there's also an insecurity there, at least there was for me, where so much of your identity is tied up in what you're building that it's almost hard to differentiate from someone criticizing your business idea and them criticizing you. And so for those reasons, I built up kind of a brick wall, I think, to a lot of feedback in the early days. And in some ways that helped us get to where it is today, but in other ways it's not the best way to grow as a leader. And so what I learned over time is that you want to really try to hear and internalize different forms of feedback, many of which may be negative or critical, but you don't necessarily have to listen to that feedback. And so that's where I differentiate between hearing and listening. Hearing to me is making sure you're absorbing the information that's coming in, really understanding where people are coming from. Listening being, okay, I'm going to do the thing you just said, or action off of it. And so that's how I differentiate the two. And it's funny, as you get more successful and then more and more people start agreeing with you all the time, then you start actually getting excited when people disagree with you. So these things are all on a pendulum. But I do feel fortunate to have lots of people in my life who are, pushing the boundaries and pushing my own confidence and why I believe certain things.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned one valuable lesson through my journey as a young, successful entrepreneur like you is don't take yes for an answer, because that'll be your next challenge, always having to hear yes and take that as an answer. Now, you have a lot of counterintuitive strategies, which I love. We had talked about a few in what you do, but one that's really intriguing is, a lot of people say your net work is your net worth. And you had a quote once as saying, the hell with networking altogether. What is your philosophy about networking?
Well, look, I think it's phenomenal to meet people, and I think it's phenomenal to learn from people. And I, in general, am a curious person, so I do like engaging all sorts of different types of people. I just think that networking for the sake of networking is a bit of a dead end. And where I've had the most impactful relationships with people have been in doing the work, where there's a real reason that you're engaging with someone. There's a question that you're pursuing or they're asking of you, and you're working on something together. And I feel like there's an authenticity that comes with that. And then as a consequence, you develop a relationship that then in turn makes someone part of your network. The example I'll give is, many entrepreneurs, founders come to me today and they say, what was your strategy for raising capital from professional athletes? Today, Whoop has a bunch of professional athletes as investors. And I tell them to think about that a little bit differently. I ask them to say, well, what product or service are you building that's going to benefit a professional athlete? Because if you nail that piece of the equation, the the athlete as the investor comes very naturally. You know, I didn't say I want to befriend Rory McIlroy or Justin Thomas or Kevin Durant, but they actually became friends because they started using the product that we developed at Whoop, and then there was sort of a natural thing there. And then of course, because you become friends over this one thing, you then engage on other topics. So that's how I think about it, which is again to focus on the work and the task, and then interesting, fascinating people drift into your life.
which has been a blessing of mine here on the playbook as I get to the last question, because you have to rank up there. I know you're a 30 under 30, a 40 under 40. Of course, you went to school in Boston like my little brother, but I appreciate that you had the humility to say I actually went to Harvard. I really, my biggest problem with Harvard guys when like, I went to school in Boston. I'm like, can you just say you went to Harvard? That's a great achievement. So congratulations. But, thriving in life is one of my missions, to empower people, to empower others to be happy. Whoop is one of those companies that are definitely aligned or synergistic to my main mission in life, which is truly happiness. And you talk about that vertical approach that you take. What is your philosophy or mantra about thriving or being happy or empowering others to be happy? Do you have some, go-to that you use to thrive or be happy?
Well, a lot of things immediately come to mind, but I think that the things that I've realized I enjoy the most about building Whoop are related to the product and the people. And with the product, the thing that makes me absolute happiest is hearing from Whoop members who say that Whoop in one way or another has changed their life. A Navy SEAL using Whoop to overcome PTSD. An executive who lost 60 pounds using the product. Someone with sleep apnea who figured out how to improve their sleep. These are the stories that for me really resonate. And so I think part of success for me is feeling like I'm delivering products and services that are improving people's lives. And then I think on the people side, like I feel incredibly grateful that I've gotten to build a team now of over 330 people and incredibly brilliant people, and to get to see people's careers advance while at Whoop, and to see them grow and to be able to give people promotions and raises, like, and you see just um, the excitement and fulfillment that someone gets from working really hard and then getting the recognition that they deserve. And so for me, I would say those are the two things that professionally at least feel really gratifying.
Oh yeah, I get that, and I'm aligned it completely. I will give you one more testimonial too. So Whoop has made one entrepreneur, that's me, millions of dollars, which made millions of people happy, and I've had a ton of fun. So I appreciate your approach to health and fitness and sleep especially. So thank you so much. This is Dave Meltzer with Will Ahmed, the founder and CEO of Whoop. You got to check him out here on Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.